They poked the lion and now they're running from the roar. You see, chosen one, what they didn't understand was this. Your suffering wasn't random. It was a setup for revelation. Behind every betrayal, every whisper of slander, and every door that slammed shut in your face, there was a divine orchestration at play. People didn't just hurt you. They plotted, coordinated, and schemed, thinking they could write the ending to your story. But what they failed to realize is that you are chosen, not by man, but by God himself. And when God chooses someone, every attack becomes fuel for purpose. Just like Joseph's brothers threw him in a pit, hoping to erase him, only to later bow before the very one they tried to destroy. Your enemies are now watching you rise. The pain they thought would paralyze you became the very pressure that activated your power. Think about it. You were left out, lied to, betrayed, and maybe even laughed at. And yet you survived. Not only did you survive, you transformed. You rose wiser, stronger, and sharper. Because pain, when filtered through purpose, becomes power. Let's go deeper. Esther was once an orphan, invisible to the world, but God hid her not to hurt her. He hid her to prepare her. And when the moment came, she stepped forward, not with noise, but with strategy. Like Esther, you've been underestimated in silence. People mistook your quiet for weakness. They misread your restraint as surrender. But what you were really doing was listening, learning, healing, and allowing divine timing to unfold. Galatians 6:7 tells us clearly, whatever you sow, you will reap. Those who sowed cruelty into your life are now reaping confusion. Those who mocked you are watching God mark you. When someone keeps poking a lion, eventually it roars. And that roar is your breakthrough. Heaven has responded. The shift is happening. The vengeance isn't yours, it's the Lord's. You were never fighting alone. Every tear you shed was recorded. Every insult thrown your way echoed in eternity. And now the tables have turned. You're walking through the very fire they meant to consume you, but it's not burning you, it's refining you. This is not just another motivational message. This is spiritual truth. Your suffering called heaven to attention. And the people who thought they broke you are now witnessing your rebirth. You didn't just endure, you evolved. So walk boldly, chosen one. The fire didn't destroy you, it revealed you. Your victory isn't on the way, it's already here. Point one, they touched the wrong one. People thought they could mess with you without consequence, that you were just another quiet, kind-hearted soul, an easy target for their manipulations. They saw your silence as weakness and your patience as passivity. But what they didn't know, what they still don't understand, is that you were never moving alone. You don't walk this world under your own power. You are a chosen one, divinely backed, spiritually insured, and cosmically marked. You're not just protected, you're ordained. That changes everything. When people try to destroy someone who is assigned by heaven, they aren't just hurting a person. They are declaring war on the will of God. You weren't fighting back in the flesh, but in the spirit. Woo! Angels were already circling. Heaven was already documenting that calm exterior you held on to. That wasn't indifference. That was divine discipline. And while they were laughing, scheming, and mocking your name in rooms you weren't even in, God was taking notes. Not one tear you cried went unnoticed. Not one prayer fell to the ground. Because when you're chosen, you are wrapped in a spiritual firewall no man can breach. Have you ever heard the verse, "Touch not my anointed, and do my prophets no harm"? That wasn't just lyrical poetry from ancient scrolls. That was a direct warning coded in the blueprint of spiritual law, a divine red line, and some of them crossed it boldly, repeatedly, thinking your silence was a yes, thinking God was asleep, but God was watching, deliberate, strategic, patient. And now the tables have turned. See, when they lit that fire under you, trying to expose you, break you, shame you, they didn't realize they were setting themselves ablaze. That same flame meant to consume you has now become God's wrath chasing them. And it's righteous. Not because you were vindictive, but because divine justice always collects. You weren't retaliating, you were rising, and in rising you exposed them, because truth doesn't need to shout, it just has to exist. Your glow revealed their grime. Your healing revealed their toxicity. Your elevation made their stagnation impossible to ignore. They tried to sabotage what they didn't understand. They thought they were clever. But what they didn't know is that messing with a chosen one is like poking a lion and thinking it's a cat. The roar may not come instantly, but when it does, it shakes kingdoms. You were always the test they failed. And now they're realizing they weren't fighting a person, they were provoking purpose, divine assignment, heavenly appointment, and that never ends well. So let the gossip grow louder, chosen one. Let them whisper, accuse, and wonder how you're still standing. Let them question how someone they tried to bury is now blooming like spring after a brutal winter. The truth, you were never buried, you were planted. And what grows from divine soil cannot be scorched by human fire. Keep walking, keep glowing, let the fire chase them. You're already too far ahead. Point 2, your silence spoke louder than revenge. You didn't throw shade, you didn't expose receipts, you didn't gather a crowd or post cryptic quotes. You simply sat in silence. And that silence, it roared louder than 1,000 accusations. Chosen one, understand this deeply. Your restraint was never weakness. It was spiritual warfare in disguise. While the world is addicted to clapping back, proving points, and winning arguments, you took a higher route that only the divinely protected can walk. You didn't react in your flesh because your spirit had already won, and that's what terrified them. When the wicked rise up, they expect chaos. They thrive off drama, manipulation, and retaliation. But you didn't play their game, you disrupted it. You prayed instead of posting. You forgave instead of fighting. You turned your cheek while they slapped you with lies. And that choice, that strategy, it wasn't passive, it was prophetic. You handed the situation to God. And when God handles it, He settles it with precision. While you looked like you were doing nothing, God was doing everything. There's a reason they started panicking after you went quiet. See, silence is never empty when it's in the hands of the Most High. Your stillness activated a spiritual courtroom. Angels got assigned, truth got summoned, and divine justice began to unfold. The people who once mocked you, doubted you, and tried to destroy your reputation, they're now looking over their shoulders, not because you're plotting revenge, but because they know something bigger than them is watching. You became a mirror, chosen one. Their attacks were projections of their own guilt, their own fears, and their own unhealed wounds. And when you didn't respond, when you didn't stoop to their level, they had no one left to blame but themselves. Your very presence exposed what they tried so hard to hide. You didn't have to expose them, they exposed themselves. That's the power of divine reflection. You walk in a light so blinding, it makes darkness tremble. Not because you're trying to shine, but because it's who you are. And here's what's wild. They weren't scared of you, they were scared of what's backing you. The favor on your life, the grace that covers you, the calling that can't be copied, the spiritual armor that can't be pierced. When you operate under divine instruction, even your quiet becomes loud. That's why they're confused. That's why the gossip won't stop. Because people can't understand how someone can be attacked so viciously, yet never lose their peace. But that's what makes you different. You don't fight for attention. You were born with intention. Your silence isn't retreat, it's revelation. Your stillness isn't surrender, it's strategy. And every time you chose not to respond, not to break character, not to become who they said you were, you sent a signal to heaven, I trust you, Lord. And heaven responded, watch what I do next. So now, as karma does her rounds and divine justice unfolds, keep your head high, not in pride, but in purpose. You passed the test most people fail. You didn't let pain turn you petty. You didn't let betrayal make you bitter. You stayed in alignment, even when it hurt. And that is why you're being elevated in silence while they unravel in public. You're not blessed because you're better. You're blessed because you obeyed. Because when others played God, you waited on God. And now the ones who try to destroy your peace have to watch you walk in power, silent, strategic, unbothered, unmoved, and unstoppable. Point 3, what they sent out came back sevenfold. They threw dirt on your name, chosen one, thinking it would bury you for good. But what they didn't realize is that you were a seed. And seeds, when buried, don't die, they grow. In silence, in darkness, under pressure. They tried to suffocate your light by whispering lies behind your back, twisting your kindness into manipulation, and distorting your truth into something ugly. But the root of their hatred wasn't really about you. It was about what you reflected. You were a mirror. And mirrors are uncomfortable for people who can't stand the sight of their own hidden demons. Your presence exposed insecurities. Your peace disturbed their chaos. And your authenticity revealed their deception. That's why they attacked. But here's where things shift. When someone rises up against a chosen one, they're not entering a petty argument, they're stepping onto a divine battlefield. Because your protection isn't just emotional or physical, it's spiritual. And the moment you chose silence instead of retaliation, you unleashed a power they couldn't comprehend. This is what spiritual warriors call a divine reversal. It's not superstition, it's a universal law rooted in divine justice. The Bible confirms it in Isaiah 54:17. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. That's not a comforting slogan, it's spiritual legislation. When they cursed your name, it was like throwing a boomerang blindfolded. It spun back around and hit them harder than they imagined. Every false accusation became their reality. Every trap they set ended up snaring them instead. Divine reversal is God's way of balancing the scales without you ever lifting a finger. And he does it not with thunder or spectacle, but with precision. God's vengeance is never reckless. It's not about rage, it's about righteous order. He sees what you endured in silence, and he orchestrates a comeback that no man can claim credit for. While they were trying to scorch your reputation, God was setting the stage for your breakthrough. The fire they lit was meant to incinerate you, but instead it refined you like gold in a furnace. That's what real spiritual transformation looks like. What was sent to break you only awakened you. And now those who once mocked you are choking on their words. Their alliances are crumbling, their secrets are surfacing, and their facades are falling apart. Meanwhile, you're glowing. You didn't just survive, you evolved. And perhaps the most unsettling thing for your enemies is that you did it quietly. You never stooped to their level. You didn't argue. You didn't expose them. You just kept walking in grace, in power, and in faith. And that's the kind of strength they can't fight because it's not of this world. Spiritual battles require spiritual strategies. And one of the most powerful weapons in the arsenal of a chosen one is restraint. Choosing not to fight every battle, not to respond to every lie is not weakness, it's wisdom. Because when you're truly protected by divine covering, you learn that God's timing is more powerful than any human plan. Your silence became the thunder. Your stillness became the storm. And now people are waking up to the truth. The fake supporters have exposed themselves. The wolves in sheep's clothing are outed. And your name? It's being restored by the one who matters most. You were never buried. You were planted. And now that you've grown, they're forced to watch the bloom. Let them feel the heat of their own karma while you walk forward, healed, elevated, and unstoppable. Because when God is for you, no lie, no attack, no shadow can stand in your way. You're not just chosen, you're covered, and your comeback isn't loud, it's legendary. Point 4, they mocked your faith. Now they're witnessing your favor. Have you ever noticed how people laugh the loudest when you're at your lowest? It's like your pain becomes their entertainment, a twisted performance they didn't pay for but enjoyed anyway. When you whispered prayers beneath your breath, when you dared to say, "God's got me," they mocked you. Not always with words, but with glances, sighs, and smirks that screamed disbelief. They said you were naive, delusional even, for believing in something you couldn't see. You see, this world loves realism coated in cynicism. It tells you to be practical, to face facts, to know your place. But chosen one, look at you now. You're still here, still rising, still shining, still glowing in a favor that was never meant to make sense to those who tried to bury you. Divine favor isn't flashy. It doesn't crash through doors with sirens or come dressed in golden robes. No, it moves in silence. It slips in when no one's watching, wrapped in humility and grace. And suddenly, without warning, you shine, not because you changed yourself to fit in, but because God appointed you to stand out. This favor isn't man-made. You can't earn it, hustle for it, or fake it. It's a divine assignment, a spiritual anointing that marks you as different. And that difference, it disrupts. It unsettles. Because when favor rests on you, it reveals just how fake everything around you really is. It tears down facades and exposes hidden agendas. You become a walking contradiction to their expectations, and that's why they can't handle you. Psychologists call it the mental tension people feel when their deeply held beliefs are challenged. If they believed you were destined to fail, then your success creates emotional friction in their minds. Your glow becomes a reminder of their own stagnation. Your breakthrough becomes an unintentional rebuke. That's why they talk behind your back, avoid your posts, or pretend not to see your growth. It's not that they hate you. They hate what your survival says about them. They said you wouldn't make it, but you did. And that uncomfortable truth makes them squirm in their own limitations. Let's not pretend favor means life has been smooth. Favor doesn't cancel out the nights you cried yourself to sleep, or the mornings you woke up questioning your worth. It doesn't erase the betrayal, the confusion, or the ache of isolation. Favor doesn't guarantee comfort, it guarantees purpose. It's proof that even when everything fell apart, something holy was holding you together. God's grace covered you when logic had no answers. That's the supernatural reality of the chosen, where natural ends, divine begins. While others saw wreckage, heaven saw foundation. Your breakdown became God's blueprint for your breakthrough. The attacks weren't random. The lies, the rejection, the spiritual warfare, it was all part of the process. And here's the thing, broken people hate mirrors. When you started healing, growing, forgiving, and believing again, you became a mirror to everything others tried to suppress. You exposed their wounds without even trying. That's why they tried to silence you, isolate you, and label you. But they didn't realize God was using every stone they threw to build your sanctuary. The betrayal sharpened your discernment. The loneliness drew you into intimacy with the divine. The heartbreak cracked your heart open wide enough for God's love to flood in. And now you're walking in power they don't understand, prepared in plain sight. They're watching, still doubting, still whispering. But guess what? They can't stop what's coming for you, because being marked by God means your process may be messy, but your purpose is sacred. Your glow isn't just success, it's proof. A living, breathing confirmation that God's hand never left you. And that's what they never saw coming. This isn't just a comeback, it's a calling. So let them talk, let them speculate. You don't owe anyone an explanation. Favor doesn't need fanfare, it speaks for itself. It's seen in the open doors, the healed heart, and the restored peace. It's felt in your confidence, your clarity, and your quiet joy, and it's personal, tailor-made, handpicked by heaven and sealed with fire. You are walking evidence that favor is real, that grace is active, and that God still moves mountains. You didn't endure all that pain just to play it safe. You didn't survive to keep your head down. You are the proof that the stone the builders rejected can become the cornerstone. Your story is a testimony, your life is a sermon, and the best part, you're still just getting started. Point 5, their demonic covenant backfired. Let's talk spiritual. Absolutely, chosen one, let's talk about it. Because this is spiritual warfare at its most raw. You've been through the fire, and some of y'all didn't even realize you were being targeted until you came out not just alive, but glowing. That wasn't a coincidence, that was divine preservation. You weren't just dodging bad energy, you were walking through carefully laid spiritual traps, hexes, word curses, and witchcraft rituals meant to silence your voice, shut down your glow, and derail your purpose. Some of them lit candles and called your name into circles. Some of them spoke destruction over you with bitter tongues cloaked in jealousy. And still you rise. You didn't just survive the war, you embarrassed the enemy. What they didn't calculate was your covering. See, there's a reason the Bible calls you anointed and appointed. The Holy Spirit isn't just around you, He's in you. And that's a game changer. These people thought they were battling flesh and blood, but they had no clue they were messing with a spiritual heavyweight. You're not just chosen. You're fortified, protected by the blood, sealed with favor, and backed by a power that never loses. They threw spells, and those very incantations boomeranged. The same altar they used to call down confusion on your mind, it cracked. The same demons they partnered with for influence and manipulation, they're now turning on them because dark spirits have no loyalty. Their rituals were faulty from the start because no weapon formed against a chosen one ever truly prospers. It forms, yes, but it always fails. Let's be real, spiritual warfare is not symbolic, it's factual. Studies in parapsychology and energy dynamics confirm what ancient texts have been telling us all along. Intention, frequency, and spoken word matter. Words carry vibration, and when fueled with hatred or envy, they become curses. But here's the part they forgot. God's word carries more. You can't cancel what God already blessed. You can't curse what heaven has ordained. You can try, sure, but all you'll do is end up dancing in a pit you dug for someone else. That's exactly what's happening now. Those monitoring spirits they sent, confused, those psychic attacks, return to sender with divine speed. You didn't even have to clap back. You just kept walking in obedience. That obedience was your weapon, your silence, a shield, your worship, a war cry. So why does this matter, chosen one? Because you need to know what you carry. You're not some random blessed person. You're a spiritual bomb that detonates every lie, every curse, and every demonic agreement formed in secret. You are proof that God is real and active. That's why they tried to bury you. That's why they spread lies. That's why they monitored your every move. They wanted to break your spirit, but instead they confirmed your power. You didn't just dodge a bullet. You were the bulletproof glass. And now, oh now, the atmosphere has shifted. The same people who played with darkness to delay your destiny are now terrified, not of you, but of the God in you. Because he showed up. He showed out. He reversed every plot and turned your pain into prophecy. And those spirits, they're not just mad. They're panicking. They see that you're not bound. They see that your voice is still strong, that your glow is still radiant, that your spirit is still unbothered. You walked through hell and didn't smell like smoke. That's not human strength. That's divine design. So walk tall, chosen one. Your armor is invisible, but it's felt. Your glow is silent, but it's seen. You are heaven's retaliation plan wrapped in skin. And no spell, no scheme, no sorcery can undo what God has ordained for your life. Keep shining. They lit candles, but God lit you. Point 6, God used the fire to reveal your next level. Absolutely, chosen one. Let's unpack this with truth, power, and a touch of divine drama. Here's the plot twist they never saw coming. God used that fire. The very fire they lit, hoping it would consume you, those rumors, that sabotage, the relentless hate, God didn't just put it out, he let it burn. But not to destroy you. No, he used it to refine you. You were gold in the raw, unpolished, unshaped, but deeply valuable. And just like pure gold must be heated to over 1,900 degrees Fahrenheit to be purified, your life had to pass through intense flames so that everything not aligned with your divine assignment could burn away. They thought you'd break under pressure. They thought the betrayal would ruin you, but they forgot one critical thing. You're built for heat. And what they meant as a setup for your downfall, God flipped into a divine glow-up. That betrayal, preparation, the pain, a push, the humiliation, humbling fuel. See, spiritual law is different from earthly logic. What the enemy sends to weaken you, God repurposes to strengthen you. You didn't just survive, you evolved. This principle of refiner's fire is ancient. In the book of Malachi 3, God is described as a refiner and purifier of silver. That process removes all the impurities, leaving only what's worthy, what's destined to shine. You didn't know it at the time, but every storm, every lie, every time they tried to shame you publicly, it was polishing your character, shaping your endurance, training you in spiritual warfare, because, let's be real, you can't carry a calling if you fold every time it gets hot. Chosen ones don't get soft assignments, and God doesn't send warriors out with untested armor. So yes, the fire was unfair. Yes, they meant to leave you devastated, but instead of staying broken, you leveled up, you got sharper, wiser. You started seeing people for who they were, not who they pretended to be. That's called spiritual discernment, and it only comes after you've cried on the floor and prayed through fire. What they didn't expect was that their very attack would accelerate your anointing. You didn't just make it out of the fire, you made it out with fire inside you, that holy fire. That untouchable flame of purpose. You're now walking with insight, power, and divine clarity. And they can feel it, they can't explain it, but something about you burns their illusions. You enter a room, and without saying a word, their masks start slipping. You represent truth, and truth doesn't play nice with lies. Here's the wildest part. You didn't even clap back. You didn't expose them. You didn't retaliate. You let God handle it. That's silence. That was power. That was trust. And the entire time, God was flipping the script behind the scenes. The very people who tried to bury your name are now watching you rise, unable to figure out how you're still glowing, because what's fireproof can't be destroyed, only revealed. Psychologically, this process mirrors what's known as post-traumatic growth, a phenomenon where people emerge from suffering not just healed, but better than before. Studies in clinical psychology show that individuals who endure deep trials often develop increased emotional strength, greater compassion, and a more defined sense of life purpose. That's exactly what happened to you. They tried to traumatize you, but instead they triggered your transformation. And now you've got keys to rooms they tried to lock you out of. You're moving on levels they said you'd never reach, all because God doesn't waste pain. Every trial became a tool. Every tear watered your future. And now you walk in fireproof faith, knowing that what was meant to destroy you only helped you discover who you really are. Chosen one, wear your scars like medals. They are proof that you were in the fire and made it out golden. Point 7, this is your public vindication season. You see, chosen one, this season isn't about petty revenge, it's about divine revelation. What's unfolding in your life right now isn't some random lucky break. It's the intentional unveiling of something God has been crafting in the shadows. While people were laughing at your silence, mocking your absence, and spreading gossip about your downfall, heaven was preparing your rise. They thought they were writing your final chapter, but God was just flipping the page. You were hidden for a reason. A diamond is formed under pressure, in darkness, away from public view. You weren't being ignored, you were being developed. The pain, it was part of your preparation. The betrayals, part of the blueprint. Every sleepless night, every tear, every prayer whispered in exhaustion wasn't wasted. Heaven was listening. And now that stillness is erupting into a symphony of breakthrough. You didn't need to force your way into the spotlight. Your endurance was your audition. And now here you are, walking into places they swore you'd never be invited to, receiving blessings they tried to block with their sabotage, getting promotions they said you weren't qualified for. The same people who said you were done now have no choice but to watch you win. And here's the twist, they can't stop it. That's the beauty of divine timing. It can't be manipulated, rushed, or denied. You didn't fight your way to the top, you survived your way to the top. And survival is a language only the chosen understand. This is what public vindication looks like. Not arrogance, not spite, but peace. You don't have to scream, "I told you so." Your presence is the proof, your glow is the response. And the very tables they flipped on you, God has flipped them back in your favor. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. They laughed when you were working in silence. But now the curtain's lifting, and the world is about to see who you really are. Not the broken version they tried to define you by, but the refined version heaven has crowned. And the best part, you stayed pure. You didn't let the fire turn you cold. You didn't let bitterness shape your character. You kept your heart intact. That's why God is honoring you publicly, because you didn't seek revenge. You chose righteousness. You let him fight your battles, and now he's showcasing the reward for your restraint. What they meant for evil, God is using for your elevation. You are not just a survivor, you are a revelation. And the world isn't ready for what's coming out of you next. Chosen one, hear this deeply. The pain you've endured wasn't random. The betrayal, the rejection, the nights you cried alone, wondering if anyone saw you. Those moments were sacred appointments on your path to greatness. They tried to extinguish your spirit, to break you down until you disappeared into silence. But instead, something divine happened. Instead of being consumed by the flames, you became them. God didn't just deliver you from the fire, he transformed you it. Like the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the book of Daniel, you walked through the furnace untouched, not because the heat wasn't real, but because your calling was greater. You emerged not only unharmed, but radiant with purpose. Now there's a shift. You don't move like someone who's afraid anymore. You move like someone who's seen darkness and knows how to carry light. There's authority in your step. There's clarity in your voice. You don't seek approval. You embody alignment. And this is what terrifies those who once tried to cage you. They see you now and can't comprehend how the very fire they used to break you has only made you stronger. But heaven understands. Heaven is smiling because your transformation is not just a win for you, it's a testimony for others. You are walking evidence that the enemy's weapons do not prosper when your destiny is wrapped in God's hands. So don't shrink to make others comfortable. Don't dilute your spirit for the sake of fitting in. When people demand explanations for your glow, just keep walking. The anointing doesn't need an apology. The fire that once threatened to consume you is now your light, your warmth, your divine tool. You carry the spark of resilience and the brilliance of someone who's been handpicked by the Creator. That's why you're not just surviving, you're shining, and your shine disrupts the darkness. Stay awake on your spiritual journey, chosen one. Be vigilant, because your presence exposes falsehoods, shakes systems, and awakens those who are asleep in spirit. Some will fear you, not because you've harmed them, but because you mirror what they've been avoiding in themselves: truth, purpose, and divine power. But let them watch, let them wonder. While they whisper, heaven is preparing new levels for you. The fire is yours now, not to destroy, but to refine, to illuminate, to guide. Use it wisely. The world is about to witness the unveiling of a soul on fire with purpose, and nothing can stop what God has started in you.